This is Marco Reus.
This is Shinji Kagawa.
This is Nuri Shahin.
Hello, this is Jadon Sancho.
And you're listening to the Yellowwallpod podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 445 of the Yellowwallpod. I'm your host Stefan Bulsko, and today we will talk about Borussia Dortmund leaping to the top of the table with a 4-0 win against Eintracht Frankfurt, and we will preview Friday's game against VfL Bochum, the 18th home game, if you want. For that and more, joins me the one and only Matthias Zug. Hello, Matthias. How are you doing?
Hello, Stefan. I am doing rather well. It's, I would say, I think you and I kind of chatted about it. Our mood recording this podcast is definitely different than it would have been a week ago.
Ah, dude, I'm so glad, because I would have said so many things I would have not been able to take back at all. I was so livid after the very late equalizer in Stuttgart. I don't know about you, but to me, the gut punch when that third goal from Stuttgart went in with the very last chance felt worse than the Bremen loss. Was probably the worst experience of the entire season, because it was just such a blow.
Yeah, I would say the issue, the difference between the two, obviously the Bremen loss was so early in the season, you're like, okay, that sucks, but there's still so much left to play. This was like, especially because you saw at the same time that Bayern, laid an egg against Hoffenheim, and like, this is the chance. And so for a few minutes, Dortmund were top of the table. And when that then reverted, it was kind of there's still 6 matches left. Anything can happen.
I don't think we were top. Were we just tied on points and they have a better goal difference?
That's...
Or were we...
Trying to think. Yeah, I think, no, you're right. Tied. It was tied. I don't know. It was like a week and a half ago. Don't ask me such things from the past. But there was definitely... It all of a sudden you thought, it can happen. And then when that happened, it was like, seriously? Oh, it was so close. Yeah, you're right. It would have been equal on points, which obviously now would have meant a 3-point cushion. But
2-point cushion.
2-point cushion? Equal on points? No,
you're right. 3 points. Jesus Christ.
3 points.
Well, first of all, we should apologize to our listeners that I've not been around for I don't know how many weeks now, because the last episode we recorded was before the Bayern game. So there really is a lot of things to talk about, but I don't really want to rehash all of it, to be honest, because some of it was great, some of it not so much. I'm sure it'll be mentioned one way or another as we go through the show. But I've started a new job, and my time constraints have been different, let's say, recently, especially during the time we usually record. So also apologies to you, Matthias. It just wasn't able to produce a show. And it's obviously very vexing, because the content is amazing that Borussia Dortmund are delivering right now. It is, as you said, it's a roller coaster. I mean, after the Bayern game, I think everyone was pretty disappointed. Then you turn around and beat Union Berlin quite convincingly, and then you have this ridiculous fumble against VfB Stuttgart where you have a 2-0 lead and you are up a man and you think, okay, we're gonna easily walk this. So that the players, except for Stuttgart, who thought, okay, they're gonna think it's easy, so we're gonna play for real now, and then they equalized, and then Gio Reyna of all people makes it 3-2, and we think we've won it. And then of course Koulibaly does hit an air gap instead of the ball. just very tragic narratives, and but we also need to talk a little bit about how terrible Bayern Munich have been, because without them this wouldn't have been possible. So Matthias, I don't even know where to begin, but I think a lot of the Dortmund post-game quotes were surrounding the experience of players being in the team bus driving to the game for the Frankfurt match and hearing or watching Bayern lose 3-1 in Mainz. So maybe we'll start there and what you think this did to the team and how they came out and how they reacted, etc.
Well, it was a huge motivational boost. I saw the post-match interview with Jude Bellingham, and it was just, I mean, first of all, him saying, I want to win something at this club. This club means a lot to me, which, of course, for someone not from Dortmund, not from Germany, hearing something like that is absolutely fantastic, especially in such a young player. And it gave them that
All right,
boost.
time out. Maybe we have to modulate that because I completely forgot that after the Stuttgart game, the news conference Terzic said that Dortmund want to win the championship, and I think during the week Kiel also said to Kicker or Rohnachrichten or whoever, and some reporter gaggled that Dortmund now want to win the title. So, as in, they wanted to win it all the time, but they've never explicitly said it. So this is the one thing that changed after the Stuttgart game. And obviously with Bayern losing, that all plays into it. But nevertheless, I just wanted to interject that because I think it's also important to note. So anyway, go ahead.
No, absolutely. I mean, after the Bayern loss, Terzic said it's not over. That was clearly, he said, this is not over.
That's what you said, by the way, in the previews. No matter what the result is, it's never going to be over.
Correct. There's just so much left to play. Bayern are so erratic. And it's so close, and Dortmund know they can win. That's the thing. They have that core belief, kind of reminiscent of the first time Terzic took over. And they went on that run and won the DFB-Pokal against Leipzig, where everyone thought Leipzig under Nagelsmann would win. And Dortmund, just ramrodded them. And, kind of that belief was there. And I think the focus is there because they realize now, for real, this is theirs to win. I mean, I heard somebody say, a few people say, well, excuse me, all Dortmund have to do is win the remaining 5 matches. Okay, first of all, there's no such thing as all you have to do is win. Yes, that's the theoretical ambition every time you get on a field, but it's not that easy. But of course, yes, if Dortmund win every single match, the next 5 games, they are Deutscher Meister. And that's the end of that. It is completely and utterly in their hands. And I think that has focused them a little bit more. I think even the Bayern loss was kind of a kick in the pants because they showed it against Union Berlin. I'm going to a degree, ignore the cup loss against Leipzig. I think there was still a Bayern hangover in there, and just nobody really cared. I think that was, nobody really cared about the cup. Because,
well, I personally did not. I had the game on in the background.
You said that before the Bayern match. You're like, I couldn't care less. And Dortmund have now, they won the DFB-Pokal now a few times over the course of the years that they haven't won the title, the league title. So this was like, no, we want the big one. We want the big prize. And that, of course, is the Bundesliga title. And the match against Stuttgart was so frustrating to watch. I mean, when Gio Reyna scored, I'm like, of course he did. It's the Yellowwallpod motivational speech that he almost scored 3 dramatic late winners for Dortmund this season. So he's scored 2. This one is essentially the equalizer. And the frustrating part of it was, if Dortmund would have had their regular backline instead of, Emre Can and Koulibaly, kind of everything thrown together, I truly believe Dortmund would have won that match. I have no doubt whatsoever. And in the post-game press conference against Frankfurt, Frankfurt's manager, whose name now completely escapes me off the top of my head.
Glasner, Oliver Glasner.
Glasner, he said, Dortmund, off the bench, they bring on Niklas Süle, and we brought on, I don't even remember who. And Terzic said, well, I kind of want to throw in there. That was us last week. And honestly, that was Dortmund like last season. It's just hard. I mean, Koulibaly, he was like the last man standing you could throw in there who kind of knows how to play central defender, but the kid just isn't ready. He's been on the pitch, I think, twice this season, and he's proven to me he's not there. Will he ever be there? Who knows? But he's definitely not there now. Very, very erratic. And so that was really, really frustrating. I was also frustrated because, to be perfectly honest, Stuttgart should have been down to 10 men after, what was it, like a minute and a half? The Guirassy against Emre Can incident, that was a red card. That was 100% clear red card. The fact that VAR didn't go, may want to look at that again.
That wasn't even a foul.
I mean, it wasn't even a foul. He could have snapped Emre Can's leg with that if it wasn't Emre Can. If that was Gio Reyna, he would have broken his leg. Emre Can, I'm not too worried about that.
Having the Yellowwallpod bone density analysis right here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just look at the physique of the two guys. That says it a lot. But no, I mean, that was really, really frustrating when they did go down to 10 men finally, which should have been 9 men. I was like, okay, fine. And then Jude Bellingham summarized it really, really well. Post Frankfurt, he said, in the last match, we were all a little bit too arrogant. And that's what it felt like. I mean, Dortmund had so many chances against Stuttgart and just kind of like la-di-da at the end. It was so sloppy in attack and just lacked drive. If they would have just put in a little more focus, they could have scored 2 or 3 more against Stuttgart, and they just didn't. And then, Guerrero doing his typical Guerrero jog back. I mean, against Stuttgart showed it as well. Against Frankfurt. I mean, I would always do a far post from the left side to the right side cross, knowing that either Guerrero is there for a header, which he can't defend, or he's just not going to be there. Let's be perfectly honest. I miss those matches where we had Riasson on the left, Wolf on the right, and Guerrero in midfield. That was nice. I wouldn't mind seeing that again. But right now the midfield trio is pretty well established. So it's been a roller coaster over the last few weeks. Needless to say, it's been a roller coaster at the Siebener Straße as well. In München, which was
very
really,
few ups,
really,
however.
yeah. It's well, they had an up when they beat Dortmund, and I'll have to say it. Bayern were better that day. There's no doubt about it. Kobel with one of the worst goalkeeping errors in a Dortmund shirt I've seen in a long time, and that says a lot. So, and it's not very typical for him. So
it was a routine play, and he was lacking routine.
Yeah, and Bayern were better that day. It's that simple. I'm not going to say Dortmund were unlucky. No, Bayern were better. I'm not a Bayern fan. I'm okay with admitting when the other team plays better. But in the subsequent matches, Dortmund played better, and twice they won, once they drew, and that's the big difference. I mean, that we're even having this conversation, given where things were pre-World Cup winter break. I mean, is pretty amazing. I'm excited for these last 5 matches. It's going to be a little crazy. Obviously, we're going to talk about Frankfurt, and then we're going to look ahead to the next matches. But leading up to Frankfurt, this was the match I was looking at the calendar most worried about, to be perfectly honest. And Frankfurt proved it. They had chances. They just couldn't finish. Kolomuani just had an off day, and they attacked Dortmund's left side over and over again, which is smart. You have Guerrero on that side, and you have pace. And that is why I credit Terzic when he brought in Süle, instead of doing the switch that they had pre-World Cup, where Süle was on the right and Hummels on the left, because Hummels prefers the left side. They were like, no. We're putting Süle on the left side because of that pace, because they are attacking us on that side. And if we put Hummels over there, that's going to be a problem pace-wise. And so I was glad to see that. And I think we also have to talk about the fact that all of us have underestimated Edin Terzic. Myself included. I thought maybe that when he won the cup, that was maybe a little bit of a fluke, given the energy he brought in post Lucien Favre. But the development of certain key players, looking at Emre Can as probably one of the big standouts, Julian Brandt to a degree, Daniel Mahlen, and the tactical changes that were made, probably in a team, it's not Edin Terzic alone, have allowed Dortmund to be in this position. And so I disagree with some people's hot takes where they're like, well, Dortmund are in this position because Bayern are slumping, so it's more about timing than talent. I think it's a combo of both. And I do want to get one thing off my chest during the Frankfurt match, where I'm a big fan of Derek Ray in his color commentary. I don't know who his co-commentator was. I don't know if they watched a lot of Dortmund matches because it didn't sound like it. And the one thing that bothered me where he said, going into the Bayern match, Dortmund, like they do every year, say they're going to win the title. I'm sorry. When in the fuck have Dortmund ever said going into Munich that they're going to win a title? I mean, Dortmund coming out now saying they want to win the title. That's a headline. I mean, I remember the Klopp years when it was like, you're going to win the title, and they wouldn't say it. So that's Dortmund now feel the momentum shift towards them, and they are taking bold steps and saying, we want to win this title now. And that's huge. That's huge for these players. And Dortmund said it after losing to Munich, not before going to Munich. So it's going to be a fun, crazy 5 weeks ahead of us.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to watch the game against Frankfurt over and over again. I just want to bathe in the euphoria coming from the ranks, because let's be real, everyone in the stadium knew, in the Westfalenstadion knew, what was on the line and how important it would be if Dortmund win it, because everyone, of course, knows the result in Mainz. And I think this was probably the best atmosphere this entire season. Maybe it's recency bias, but I struggle to think of a game where the atmosphere was this over 90 minutes, this ginormous. It was just amazing. The amount of energy coming from the stands, coming from the ranks onto the pitch, pushing this team forward, is absolutely amazing. And of course, the Westfalenstadion is an absolute fortress. And obviously, Dortmund were a bit lucky with the run of play that it was Bellingham who scored first, not Frankfurt with, I don't know, some weird deflected shot or whatever. And from then on out, this just the dynamic in the stadium, it was just amazing. And it's funny how how sometimes there can be a pressure like this that does not feel conducive to the cause, but and this time the positivity is so amazing. And Edin Terzic said at the beginning of his tenure as a full-time head coach that he wants to be louder than ever and hungrier than ever and all these things. And I think this game showed that this was achieved this season. I don't know. I don't want to say then ever, but in a long time. And I was on Sirius XM the other day on Counterattack to talk about the title race in the Bundesliga. And I think this is one of the biggest advantages that Dortmund have over Bayern right now. Not only do we still have 3 home games out of the 5 games, and we all know that Dortmund struggles in this stretch of the season just exclusively come on the road, because the home games, be it against Union Berlin, Frankfurt, etc., all have looked very solid. And I've said it before on here, when I listened to the news conference or the press conference or whatever you want to call it, when Thomas Tuchel was announced with Oliver Kahn and Brazzo, neither of these 3 just mentioned the Bayern fans even once in the almost whole hour where they split it in half. The first half was talking about why Julian Nagelsmann was let go, and the other 20 minutes or whatever was, presenting Thomas Tuchel. The galvanization going on at Borussia Dortmund, also in large part thanks to Edin Terzic, is something else. It's a spirit, it's a level, it's a vibe, whatever you want to call it, that we have not seen in a pretty long time, and makes me all the more excited about this season than previous seasons. And it's something, the word escapes me, but it's not quite palpable, Matthias, but we all know it's there. It's maybe something platonic, which gives me even more joy watching these games. I don't know how you feel about it, but just the sheer emotion coming out of, oozing out of this club right now is mostly very positive. And even though the game against Stuttgart was terrible and I wanted to curse them all out, predominantly, if I look back at this season already, I think the vibes were rather good. And, people criticize Terzic for being a vibes-only manager. Obviously, I think we both disagree a little bit, but to a certain extent, we can also say that he's, of course, no Pep Guardiola or some tactical mastermind, beyond his generation. But, I'm very happy with the coach right now. I don't know how you feel about it, but this situation overall fills me with joy. I obviously do not know where this journey ends, but I said before the Bayern game, I'm not betting against this team currently at all, even though they give you reason enough to do so.
Well, I mean, as far as, Terzic being a rah-rah vibes coach, I think in his first tenure, his first 6 months, post Lucien Favre, he was kind of that upbeat, polite, rah-rah guy, because he had to be. I mean, the team were rock bottom, they were down, they were nowhere near European places, ended up in the Champions League and winning the DFB Pokal. Then this season, his role was a little bit different. In the beginning, it was kind of the same, kind of pick up after a really weird Marco Rose season, where you finish second, but everyone kind of feels like you failed. It was really weird.
Yeah, it was just a blast season somehow.
Yeah, it just,
this is
out.
Just what I was talking about. Like, emotionally, I was not there for it at all. This season is so entirely different. It just feels way more intense. It feels way more present.
Correct, and it's Terzic's situation isn't unique. In the sense, I mean, he's a Dortmund fan. He, was born and grew up 30 minutes away. He's a true local guy. I'd compare it to like Christian Streich at Freiburg, who is undoubtedly from the region, if you ever hear him speak, or Schmidt at Heidenheim, who's actually born like 10 minutes away from the stadium. These are three stories that are, I would say, unique in the professional world of European football, because you don't really get that often. Thomas Tuchel isn't from Munich. Jürgen Klopp wasn't from Dortmund or from Liverpool. Pep Guardiola isn't from Manchester. It's Pep Guardiola when he was at Barcelona is probably the closest thing you got to that. But you just feel it. And the nice thing, what I really liked about Terzic this season, specifically after the Bayern loss, is his competitive nature and saying, no, this isn't over yet. We want to win the title. And how pissed off he was after the Stuttgart match. And he showed it. He showed how angry he was, and he didn't protect the players in that moment. He said, I am too angry to give an analysis of what just happened. And to basically say, this is why Dortmund haven't been winning the Bundesliga for the last 10 years. These kind of games. If we want to achieve something, we can't do this anymore. And that is a huge shift on the way Terzic was at the beginning of the season or when he first took over the club after Favre. Now this is his team. This is his club. He is fully integrated. He has the full backing of the supporters and the brass at the club. And you can tell that. He's not arrogant. He's not like Nagelsmann, who's an arrogant shit. He's not like Tuchel, who also, has a slight arrogant streak. Let's put it that way. This is born out of passion for the club and the sport. And you combine that with the fact that he is a smart guy. He is articulate. He does know tactics. It's not like he just got pulled off the street and say, hey, you like Dortmund, how about you become a manager? He has, I'm not going to say coaching pedigree, but at least, he has a background of learning the craft, so to speak. And this season has shown it. I mean, Dortmund have gone through highs. They've gone through a big lull when a lot of people were massively questioning Edin Terzic, were questioning the club why they even hired him post Marco Rose. Should they have even fired Marco Rose? And even us here on the podcast were like, I don't know if this is the right guy. And thankfully, all of us were proven completely wrong. And he not only turned it around, but Dortmund I think I read they're scoring the most goals in the Rückrunde. They are on a complete tear. Yeah, they lost in the cup. Yeah, they lost to Chelsea in a really weird Champions League tie. But more often than not, since the restart of the season, it's been more high than low. And I credit Edin Terzic for that, because it's not like they brought in a ton of players. Adding Riasson was a huge add, huge. And so Sebastian Kehl has to be lauded for that. But the reemergence or the emergence of Daniel Mahlen, because I remember how we talked about him post that Copenhagen match, and Emre Can, who right now I wouldn't want out of the squad. That's a lot of that is down to Edin Terzic and his team. There's no denying that, especially someone like Daniel Mahlen, who's now playing like he played at PSV. I mean, he is playing like that. He is bossing players. He is having so much fun out there. And that is wonderful to see, because now we're like, that's the guy that's supposed to replace Jadon Sancho. And now he has.
Daniel Mahlen scored 6 goals in the last 5 games, and I'm watching a lot of NBA right now, as people who follow me on Twitter may have seen, and obviously, people always talking about players being in their bag when they have a variation of skill showing, but Daniel Mahlen has been in a swag bag, because Daniel Mahlen is a confidence player, and he has not had it pretty much the entire time in Dortmund, ever since I don't know even what the inflection point is, but he just found it. He has picked it up. The club have shown him more trust than I personally would have, and to me, Mahlen has been a write-off, also because of the lack of tactical discipline shown in games before, where he just did not track back at all. And if you paired him with Guerrero on the left side, it was just a catastrophe. And now we have an entirely changed player. And obviously, there are multiple factors that come to it. The talent that Daniel Mahlen has is undeniable. He has pace. He has a very hard shot, which Nico Schlotterbeck unfortunately had to feel in full force with that free kick. And I actually didn't realize Schlotterbeck was subbed out due to a muscular problem that reappeared, because I thought his head was just still ringing initially. But by now we know Schlotterbeck sadly had to come off because of his muscular problems that are ongoing. But back to Daniel Mahlen. I think the biggest factor for Daniel Mahlen being better than ever before is Sebastian Aller. And having a striker that can play with the back to the goal and have some hold-up play is exactly what both Malen and Adeyemi need. And to me, right now, this is the perfect front three that Dortmund can have, with Malen on the right, Adeyemi on the left, and Malen as the anchor, the striker, who feeds those two players. And of course, ideally, Julian Brandt as the number 10 in behind. To me, this is a very strong, very hard to defend attack, because Sebastian Aller will always need full attention, because otherwise he's just too strong on the ball, and it is impossible to account for the pace of Adeyemi and Malen at the same time. There's just no way to do that, and Julian Brandt has played the best season he has been at Dortmund, and we haven't even talked about his contract extension, which I'm very, very happy about, because to me right now, his extension had a higher priority than Marco Reus's, just because of how good he's been playing, how valuable he is in the sporting sense for Dortmund, and in many other ways. And I think we should talk about it in a second. But just to circle back to Daniel Malen, he just appears now at the right time in the right place, and has some poacher's goals, as well as some obvious skill goals that he creates. And boy, oh boy, is it nice to see. How many did Dortmund pay for him? Was it roughly 30 or it was definitely north 20 million. And for him to be a bust, which for the longest time he looked like it, to come out this good is such a blessing, because now we have something that we can plan with, we can build on, and can improve upon. And that makes the future all the more bright, because Daniel Malen and Adeyemi are not going to leave at the end of next season if Dortmund are unless Dortmund want them to leave. And the same goes for Sebastian Aller, who of course is still improving. I think the game against Frankfurt was probably one of his better ones, also because he of course had that mismatch against Makoto Hasebe, which Dortmund very much exploited. But just from that structure, there we have something going, which I'm very happy about, because to me, as I said, those four attackers are very much set in the starting lineup whenever available and healthy and fully fit. And I mean, if you watch the 4-0, the way Adeyemi sets up Malen there is just ridiculous. We haven't even talked about the leap that set up the second goal, and kudos to Kolo Muani, who fouled Gregor Kobel, because otherwise this long goal kick from Kobel or free kick in that sense would not have been possible, and Aller's dink to Adeyemi and Adeyemi's leap and pass to Daniel Malen also wouldn't have been possible. But it's good to see these players being fully confident, doing all kinds of ridiculous high skill tricks, especially Daniel Malen when he had these spin moves in the Union Berlin game and whatnot. It's just great to see. And Matthias, you tell me, but if these players are playing as well as they did against Frankfurt, I'm way more confident about a win against Bayern, for example, than whatever lineup that was, because I don't think we played Malen there, and Adeyemi didn't even feature, even though he theoretically could have. It just goes to show how important health of these players will be, especially also our backline, going into these remaining 5 games.
I agree. I think, obviously Adeyemi is still going to develop. He's very, very young. The two things he needs to develop out of his game are cheating. I mean, just the dives, stop. Just stop. That doesn't endear yourself to Dortmund fans. The unnecessary bookings, that's the stuff he needs to get rid of. But other than that, he's powerful. He's pacey. His vertical leap is pretty impressive, because he's not the super tall guy, but he's got a really nice vertical. And then just the pace. Imagine you're a defender and you've got Malen and Adeyemi running at you at full speed, and then a Julian Brandt, who's also fast. Now, not their level of fast, but he's fast. But he's really fast with his feet and his mind. kind of peak Marco Reus, a few years back when he was younger. You just knew something would happen, and the way Dortmund can interact in really tight spaces now is really fun to watch. I'm also honestly surprised that Riasson has some skill. I wasn't expecting that. Now, obviously not, Guerrero level, but it's still really, really good. And I think he's really enjoying playing in the Dortmund style versus what he had to endure in the quote-unquote style he had at Union Berlin. So he's obviously different things are asked of him now, and he's shining. So no, it was good. Dortmund in this match had to weather a lot of dangerous Frankfurt attacks and did so well. Sometimes convincingly, sometimes lucky, but that all happens because, let's be honest, Dortmund have also had bad luck. I mean, that Koulibaly goal for Stuttgart that took that massive deflection, that was unlucky. Otherwise, that was a nothing shot that Kobel would have just scooped up.
I think you mean the Emre Can goal, right? That Can deflected, not Koulibaly.
Yeah. That was just unlucky, So sometimes you need a little bit of luck because God knows there's been enough bad luck. So no, it was great, and you combine that. I mean, I said it was a really good footballing day for me. Starting with Preußen Münster winning the Regionalliga West and getting promoted to the Dritte Liga, then watching the Mainz match, and then the Dortmund match. Like, I couldn't come down from the high of that.
And then 6 was
Saturday.
One game one.
Sure. There's also the ball, the game on the whatever. No, that's all good. So no, it was really nice. It was fun to see. It was upbeat, is exactly what I needed. Because yes, I was concerned following the Stuttgart match and knowing that Frankfurt are really, really dangerous, and they proved it. I mean, XG wise, they're not terribly far apart, but it was a good win. And like you said, Sebastian Aller, huge difference maker because, Moukoko just isn't there yet. Anthony Modeste, I understand the reason why Dortmund bought him. It was a smart move at the time. He seemed to fit the bill. It just didn't work out. I feel bad for the guy. But, he's not Aller, but he kind of fit a certain mold, but it just didn't work out. But ever since Aller being there and being fit and gaining more and more fitness, he's still not 100%. That's the thing. It's only going to get better, and I'm looking for. I know we've got 5 matches left where Dortmund could become Bundesliga title winners, but I'm already looking forward to next season when he's fully fit for an entire season.
Yeah, hopefully. You just never know what happens. He can get a, let's say, more traditional footballing injury as well. But knock on wood that he will be the player that Dortmund thought they would get, because he also has way more goals in him still. I would say if there's one downside to him right now is that he's not quite there yet where he usually is when it comes to actually finishing and being in the situations where you get to finish. I think having only played half a season with Dortmund, you can expect more next season in that regard too, that there's just even more chemistry to be built. And I'm very much looking forward to it as well. Now, let's talk a little bit about the upcoming games. Of course, Dortmund already play on Friday, 8:30 local time kickoff in Bochum, and we all know that these games are very, very tough. We did defeat them in the DFB Pokal, but last season it was a 1-1 draw where Dortmund had a million chances, especially Erling Haaland just couldn't finish them, and did not grab the W back then. But I am quite optimistic also because of the way Dortmund beat them. What was it? Somewhere beginning of February, where the pitch was in atrocious condition, and Bochum made it a true cup fight, and Dortmund, even though it wasn't a pretty game, Dortmund were just up for this game, and I'm very convinced that this time around Dortmund will be up for it just as equally, and you can force errors out of this Bochum team as we have seen before. They are, of course, right now struggling to remain in the Bundesliga. They're in 15th place, so they too have everything to play for, just as Dortmund. Just a different kind of pressure when you're fighting for your life in the Bundesliga. And man, what a story it would be if Bochum managed another season of top-flight Bundesliga football. It's close to a miracle because it's really a tiny club in comparison, but nevertheless, we have to beat them, and I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't know about you, Matthias, because it is a road game, even though it's not very far. You can get from Dortmund to Bochum in like 20 minutes or so between city centers, maybe half hour. If you take the train, at least. I don't know about taking the behinds. It can be a little more stuffy. But more importantly, what do Dortmund have to show this time in order to demonstrate that the 4-0 win against Frankfurt wasn't just we want to be champions fluke, but that they are indeed serious and can back it up, because they certainly did not look like a serious we want to win the title team against Stuttgart. So since Dortmund have been woeful on the road this season, I think this needs to be even more of a statement game or statement win than the Frankfurt game.
Yeah, so, I mean, Dortmund so far this season has had a good record against Bochum. They beat them 3-0 at home and then 2-1 in the Cup. But obviously this is a different Bochum than in the beginning of the season, where it looked like they were just going to go down so pathetically. They've rebounded significantly. They've had a bad April. You know, they lost to Stuttgart, they lost to Bochum. They drew against Union Berlin.
To Schalke, maybe?
No.
You just said they lost to Bochum.
Sorry, Bochum lost to Wolfsburg. There are two VfLs. So losing to Wolfsburg, losing to Stuttgart, drawing Berlin. But they did lose to Schalke in March. But they also beat Leipzig in March. So this is it's an odd team, because I watched the Wolfsburg match, and it's a miracle they didn't score more, because even if you look at XG, Bochum create chances. They are a dangerous attacking side. They are also a dangerous defending side. They have the most dangerous keeper in the Bundesliga, because Riemann is, as Dortmund found out, as Emre Can found out, just such a highly erratic keeper. I mean, if Bochum stay in the league, they need to replace him. That's not criticizing him as a person, blah, 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 blah. But as a Bundesliga keeper, he's just not good. Now I say that he's probably going to save 20 shots on target against Dortmund, but he always has huge mistakes baked into him. He did again against Wolfsburg. Bochum defended that so naively. It was so easy for Wolfsburg to score 5 goals that I looked at that and went, so the way for Dortmund to win this is let Bochum come. Let Bochum come at you. So play an aggressive mid-block, and then just send Adeyemi and Malen. Just send them. And they will destroy Bochum, because Bochum can't defend. I mean, it's like the meme, oh, Dortmund can't defend. Actually, Dortmund's defense is really, really good. But Bochum really can't defend. I mean, watching that against Wolfsburg, it was bad. It was really, really bad. Wolfsburg could have scored more goals even. So Bochum are dangerous because they don't hide. They play very aggressive. They play very physical. They come at you and fight, kind of like Mainz did against Bayern. The only difference is Mainz can defend, whereas Bochum can't. And that's in my opinion, what Dortmund need to do is be patient and kind of let Bochum come towards them a little bit, and then hit them on the break and you'll win. I have no confidence, because I saw that's what Wolfsburg did. And I do not believe Bochum will be able to make the tactical change between their Wolfsburg match and playing Dortmund on Friday, especially Dortmund in such a high. I think it's going to be difficult. I think they're going to foul. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to be physical. It's going to be like the cup tie. They're going to be up for it with the fans on a Friday night. Those night games are always different. The intensity always seems to ratchet up a little higher.
I think for Dortmund it's actually a good thing that they have to play the night game, because I think that also ratchets the intensity for Dortmund players. I feel like the drab 3:30 away kickoff sometimes takes a little bit. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like on the road something goes missing for Dortmund, and Friday night games it very much often does not. So I'm just excited for the game because it is a derby, because so much is at stake for both teams. And man, if you just win, you can put a 4-point margin on Bayern. Now, granted, Bayern this match day will play on Sunday. They have a 3:30 game and they host Hertha Berlin, who are dead last and the most rubbish team in the Bundesliga right now. And even though they just fired their coach and rehired Pal Dardai, I have zero hope for them. So I think you can very much mark this as a win for Bayern. But that being said, I don't know about you, Matthias, but I think there are still a few good games left where Bayern really can struggle. I think after the Hertha game, they play Bremen, they play Schalke, who, as Dortmund have learned, have improved throughout the season. And of course, the penultimate match day, they play against Leipzig. So Marco Rose could, in fact, contribute to a Dortmund championship after all. And the final match day, they play away to Cologne. And I was talking about that with a friend of mine. He said, man, wouldn't it be awesome when we hear Nobby Dickel again saying 1-0 für Köln? So these are all scenarios that are possible, but I just want to circle back to the Mainz game just a tiny bit, because what makes me so optimistic about Dortmund going all the way is not just that Dortmund looked really good, and I feel like they finally understood what it takes to win a championship and approach this. I don't know. I just don't think Dortmund will just nilly-willy waste this chance now. But also Bayern look entirely discombobulated. I mean, Mainz just completely took them apart, and Bayern had very few answers. After Mainz made it 3-1 in the 70th, 77th, I don't even know what minute. But throughout the entire second half, Bayern just had almost no chances, no structure. And usually you remember, especially the Pep Guardiola years, but we have seen it, of course, every season, where it just looks like they play handball, where they have so much possession, so much dominance that the opponents hardly make it across the halfway line. But right now, these games are very open for Bayern standards, where the ball goes back and forth. Yes, they have more possession and whatnot, but they just look really bad. And maybe this was still a Champions League hangover after that loss against Man City, and now that they do not have a cup or European competition in between, they too will pick up and win out. Who knows? That is very much possible. They certainly have enough quality in their squad. But and of course, Thomas Tuchel is a good coach and can maybe turn a couple things around with more time, where he can tweak things to the better. I don't know. But status quo is that it's not only that Dortmund are playing well, it is also that Bayern are miserably poor. Not only for their standards, but they do not look like a good Bundesliga side. I think in the Rückrundentabelle, Mainz actually leapfrogged Bayern and are now in second place behind Dortmund, which says volumes about that form curve of the team from the Sebener Straße.
Well, really, I mean, if you look at the squad, I mean, Thomas Tuchel will not and should not be evaluated or judged for how Bayern finish out this season. The people that will be judged are Oliver Kahn, and the person who really needs to be fired is, and I hope he doesn't, is Bratzo Salihamidzic and his guy. Was it Neppe? His technical director or whatever?
I have no
Never
idea.
Heard of the guy?
But
the guy who
according to reports,
the guy who Tuchel banished from the bench because he kept on bitching at the refs. It's like, who is this guy? But either way, I mean,
I can totally see it.
I mean, Bayern don't. I mean, I can see Tuchel turning around and being like, "Who is this? Why are you here?
Yeah.
I have never heard of you." And so I can imagine. I mean, the crisis in Bayern is they can go. Ideally, they'll end the season without winning anything, and that is unheard of for Bayern. Last time I think that happened, Louis van Gaal was maybe manager. That they went out and won nothing, which makes sense because that was when I think that was Dortmund winning the title the first time under Klopp. No, the second season after that, they also didn't win because they didn't win the Champions League.
They didn't win a European Cup, and they certainly did not win a domestic league or anything because Dortmund won it all.
Yeah, they won the double that year.
Even though they were much better in that game.
Yeah, it's been a while. They don't really have a striker. Sadio Mane, he's not a sole striker. He wasn't at Liverpool, so anyone thinking he would have been that at Bayern is just an idiot. If you're saving grace, you're pinning your hopes on as a Bayern fan is Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting. I'm sorry, you got some serious problems, which is something Lewandowski even spoke about now while he was at Barcelona.
Do you think that Harry Kane joining Bayern is realistic? Because they will throw money at the problem, but is I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if Harry Kane would necessarily leave England. Leaving Tottenham, yes, it's a miracle he hasn't done that 4 times already. Going to Bayern, I don't know. That seems like a bit of a stretch, in my personal opinion. Who they would otherwise get, I don't know. I know Harry Kane will leave Tottenham. I'd be shocked if he still plays for Spurs. And yeah, they're going to throw money at the problem. I think Uli Hoeneß showing up at training, I think it was today.
Yeah.
And having a side conversation just with Thomas Tuchel says everything that's going to happen at Bayern. People say, well, they're not going to let go of Salihamidzic. Hoeneß hired him. Yeah, they fired Christian Nährlinger, who was a Bayern guy who Uli Hoeneß hired when it wasn't working well. There's they're ruthless. Uli Hoeneß isn't as successful as he is at Bayern by being nice. He's ruthless. I don't think Oli Kahn is going anywhere. I think Salihamidzic is gone, and his little, little Chihuahua Neppe. I think they're going to be gone, and you're going to see Uli Hoeneß giving a lot of power to Thomas Tuchel, and so that's why. Dortmund needs to win it now because next season could be a totally different Bayern in that regard because they're going to spend a crap ton of money this summer to revamp that squad because the squad's not good. The other thing for Bayern that made a huge difference against Mainz is obviously Alphonso Davies pulling up injured. That was a big issue. So yeah, if we look at the schedule on paper without a deeper analysis, Dortmund have the harder road. Deeper analysis, the 3 most difficult matches on paper in Wolfsburg, Gladbach, and Mainz are all at home. Now, here are the things behind that. Bochum are fighting for survival, plus it's a local rivalry, so that's going to be a tough one. Wolfsburg are fighting to get into Europe, even though I think they're going to fall short, and it's at home. I think Dortmund can do it, because Wolfsburg didn't play well against Bochum. Bochum created a lot of chances against Wolfsburg. They benefited from Bochum's stupidity. But, Wolfsburg are on the ascendancy. Gladbach have nothing to play for. I mean, nothing. They're not going up. They're not going down. It's a nothing season for them. Some key players are injured. I just don't see much issue there. I think by the time Dortmund play, is it Augsburg? They play away. I'm not too worried there. I think Augsburg will be safe and nothing to play for. Last match day against Mainz. It depends on where Mainz and everyone else is in the table. But that'll be a home match against Mainz, which Dortmund do well at home against Mainz. I think, yeah, the slip up for Bayern is Leipzig. I have no confidence in Hertha. I have no confidence in Schalke. Schalke were so bad against Freiburg. I mean, so bad. I think Bayern will probably score 10 goals between those two matches alone.
Yeah, aber Bremen,
So,
but Bremen, Cologne.
Bremen. Bremen and Köln, for me, are the ones that are interesting because I can't remember, is the Bremen match in Bremen?
Yes, they're both away games
so
for Bayern.
That's the thing. The players are one thing, but the coaches and the fans will desperately want to ruin München's chances of winning a title, because we
Especially
can't forget.
Bremen.
Well, yeah, because Bremen in the 80s and 90s, they were the big Bayern rival because they were winning titles. Köln were that in the 70s and 80s. And these fans, remember, this is ingrained in their DNA. And so they will want this. Someone like Steffen Baumgart, trust you me, he's going to be motivated to screw up Bayern's season on the last match day. And that's the other thing we can't discount here. Until the last match day, Dortmund and Bayern don't play at the same time anymore. They're playing at different times, sometimes different days. And so I think every match is actually different days. I don't even think they play on the same day on any of the match days.
We play on Friday against Bochum, and Bayern play against Hertha on Sunday. Then we play on Sunday against Wolfsburg, whereas Bayern play against Bremen on Saturday.
Yeah, and so there is a Saturday, but different times.
Yes.
Bayern play Schalke early, Dortmund play Gladbach at home late. And I think the big slip up for Bayern will, on paper, obviously it's Leipzig, who are fighting to get into the Champions League, to solidify their position there. And it's going to be weird rooting for Leipzig. But
I don't care.
Can't. You know, at the end of the day, if Dortmund win, I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, but still, I'm still gonna root for Leipzig,
for Bayern to lose.
Yeah, but no, I don't. Yeah. I don't care. That at that point, whatever I hate about Leipzig is insignificant compared to how much I want to win a championship. So I'm gladly rooting for them.
Yes. Yeah, but it'll be easier to root for Köln and Bremen.
Yeah, certainly.
Well, especially because, you know, I like those two clubs. So, God, it's going to be interesting. And then it could, I mean, if both teams win out, which is very obviously could happen. I mean, the fact that it could come down to the very last match day to decide the Bundesliga title and relegation and some European places, but really the big ones, title and relegation. I mean, this could go down as one of the best Bundesliga seasons in, gosh, I don't know, 12, 13, 14 years. Because even when Dortmund won the title under Klopp, it wasn't really tight at the end anymore. So, you know, Dortmund had won the title before the last match days. So this could be one of the most interesting final match days in the Bundesliga in a very long time, which is great. It's great to have that.
Yeah, we all desperately needed that, and you know, I'm all for more parity in the league, because having more tension, having better title races is something I severely miss from me growing up watching Bundesliga. There was just way more at stake for way more teams. Now you have to hope for a Bayern off season, and hope that they make enough poor decisions that maybe their rebuild or their in-game or in-season adjustments, aren't gonna hit, like you know, a coaching change or whatnot, or you know, throwing more money out during the winter transfer window and whatnot. So a lot of factors have to come good for you to win a title, and it is not even one of the absolute peak Dortmund seasons, just points-wise, because Tuchel's first season and the first Favre season, for example, Dortmund definitely performed much better points-wise. It's just that Bayern were even stronger that year, but, you know, with Bayern regressing a little bit and Dortmund not playing a completely awful season, now this is all possible, and of course, we're sitting here full of excitement. We have no idea how this is all going to go. But man, I'm already playing with the thought of making a little trip to Dortmund around May 27th because I would struggle severely to miss a title celebration in Dortmund, where I know all my friends are out there drunk on the streets, and I'm sitting here in Philadelphia, I don't know, watching some stupid live stream. So yeah, there are a lot of things to be considered right now, but most importantly, as you just said, Matthias, it is Dortmund's now to win. And I liked it because you could have also said it's Dortmund's now to lose, but I like it's Dortmund's now to win much better. Now, for next week, if you want to drop us some listener questions in our YouTube comments, just type in Yellowwallpod on YouTube and you'll find the show there. Then I'll integrate them into the next show or tweet at them at us at Yellowwallpod, so I can put some listener questions in there too. But in the meantime, Matthias, we're definitely going to be back next week. I have not discussed what your plans are now, but I will certainly be back because there's no chance in hell I'm not gonna have a Yellowwallpod out next week. Whatever it takes, even if it's just me sitting by myself rambling for a half hour, I don't care. Something will be out, and yeah, I'm just looking forward to it all. Now, please just don't ruin it.
Oh, we'll definitely talk next week. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it's here's the funny thing. Haven't won a Bundesliga title since I started the Yellowwallpod.
Oh man, should we end it right now? Should we just
in the summer of 2012? So now that Dortmund are properly in,
how we the jinx?
A full-fledged title race, you bet your ass we're going to be here every week.
Fine.
I mean, this is too big. I mean, the next closest big thing was obviously the Champions League final. But this is going to sound weird, but this is bigger for me right now because of Dortmund, the Bayern dominance of the last 10 years. So I am really, really looking forward to the next 5 weeks. I'm not going to say no matter what happens, obviously, but I'm just looking forward to the fact that even if Dortmund drop points and Bayern gain points, it's still not over. I mean, I truly believe. I'd be shocked if we're not sitting here on the final match day going, oh boy, it's down to the last 90 minutes of football this season.
I mean, it can theoretically all happen, and I'm just very excited about that. But you just talked about the dominance that Bayern had for the last 10 years. Boy, am I glad that it's on us to pierce that right now and not on freaking Leipzig. If you look at the league table, Leipzig are not even in the Champions League spots right now. So, because a lot of people have predicted that Leipzig are the second force in the Bundesliga in, no too distant future. But for now, they are not. Marco Rose is not the messiah at Leipzig, even though that's how he was praised when he started there. But these are just little details that make me happy. On top of it all, the fact that Leverkusen beat Leipzig and that Freiburg beat Schalke, and the table looks the way it looks right now, it's just very pleasing to me. Don't know about you, but if this Bundesliga season would have ended after 29 match days, I too would have been very happy. But 5 rounds still to go. Until next time, goodbye.